All right, the life wheel. There's a statement that says that which is measured improves. There was once, this is like an old experiment some people had. There was like some work that was being done, and they increased the lighting or something like that. And they wanted to see if the productivity of the workers would increase. So they had these people with paper and pen, and they were like looking to see if the productivity increased. And it did. And then they dimmed the lights to see if that affected it, and the productivity increased. I don't know, they went through all these experiments. They said it has nothing to do with the lighting. The productivity increased because someone was standing beside them with a clipboard. That's why it increased. Meaning that which is measured improves. Okay? So this principle is so important, and I hope you can understand it as you grow your business and whatever you do in life. If you measure it, it will improve just because you measured it. Just because you're measuring it, and people are saying it. When I'm dealing with Al Maghrib Institute, or I'm dealing with Discover You, or whatever I'm doing in life, in fact in my own personal life, I measure things daily, right? Daily measurements. Some things are weekly, some things are monthly, but there's measurements, I call them scoreboards. And I measure like the most important things that, for example, if I have an email list, I might measure how many new subscribers came to this email list. If, for example, let's suppose back to the sister dealing with her child and her child's reading, how many pages today did your child read? And then if you measured it, you'd see like, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, and then you're like, wait a second, there's a pattern going on here. He's not reading. And then you'd start to say, well, what's your goal? And then and when I do it on a Google spreadsheet, I would put it in red and green. When I don't hit the target, I color that red, and when I do hit the target, I color it green, kind of like a stock market. Right? When your money goes up, it turns green and red, so that the red freaks you out, and the green you get happy. So, and it's color coded, so you can see from a glance whether you're hitting your targets or not. And if you're working with people and you're delegating, that's an awesome way. Back to like a virtual assistant, if you had it, if you started measuring how long it took the virtual assistant to hand in the work, and you just measured it, and you just said, you know what, take as long as you want, I'm just going to be measuring this. If you go to like drive-throughs, they have like countdown. Tim Hortons has that. Some other restaurants have it, which is it's counting upwards how long it took to serve you, right? And the reason that they do that is they know the workers will work faster just because they see that clock in front of them. So they're like freaked out. Oh, the clock's they're trying to beat their record and so on and so forth. Okay? So if you measure it, it'll improve. So look to whatever you're doing in life, make some like common measurements, and then start tracking that monthly or weekly or whatever it is. What about intangibles? You can measure something tangible, such as finances. How much money do you have? How much money do you owe? That's why usually people focus on money so much, because you can measure it very easily. Do you have money or do you not have money? Are you a millionaire? Are you a billionaire or not? When it comes to career, people can also measure that or not by your degree. Nobody says like I'm 3 years into it. They're like, when you got your degree, it's measured. I have a bachelor's, I have a master's, I have a PhD. What about getting 2 PhDs? You'd be thinking like, who cares about the second PhD? As far as PhDs are concerned, once you got your PhD, you're done. Because that prestige level has already been achieved and whatnot. Getting a second PhD is just like overtraining kind of thing. But it's not so easy to measure health. How do people measure health? Six pack or 8 pack. Yeah. How do they measure health? Yes. Your blood pressure. I'm talking about human beings, like not people that when you go see a doctor or something like that. Yes. Okay. How about how much you weigh? Would you agree? A weight machine in your house, you're like every time you go in the bathroom, you're like, let me see how many pounds I've gained since the last 5 minutes. Right? Right? So they keep jumping on the weight machine. So they're measuring it according to weight. And then some people say don't measure. Some people say check your weight. Some people say don't check your weight, it fluctuates. And they'll say, check your blood pressure or your BMI. There's other ways of measuring that people start encouraging. How do people measure their husband-wife relationship? They don't. How do they measure maybe social life or, children? Let me just put What's that? Yeah, typically it's not measured. There might be ways of measuring it, but they're not measured. Worship is typically not measured. Health, sometimes on the weight. Career, sometimes people deal with it with finances, but in the career, it might be according to like bachelor's, master's, PhD. That's how they measure it. Other than that, it might be, kids in school. What do they measure? They measure the scores on their exams, right? I was thinking to myself, this kid, colors good. Is that going to determine their future, the fact that they color good? But what I'm saying is that they measure things that aren't necessarily important, right? So if you got an A plus or an A on your one exam in grade 4, does that determine your destiny? No, but yeah, parents would be like, "Oh, you didn't get the A plus and stuff like that." You know what? Anyways, that's how things get measured in the schools. Okay. How to measure intangibles. People in the let's suppose you're like in the Olympics, and a person diving, someone dives. How do they measure that? Was that a good dive or was it a bad dive? Right? What's something in the Olympics that you can measure, like just straight out with numbers, is 100-meter dash, right? How long did it take? It took X amount of seconds. But what about a dive? Because that's quality based, right? Or someone else. In the high beams and so on and so forth. This is how they do it. After the person dives, you have 5 judges stand up with a number. So one says, 7, some person like 7.5, 8, 10, and then they get like the sum of all of that, and that's their number. So what I'm talking about here is, you would say to a person, this is how the life wheel works, and this is why it's so effective. It's a very simple way of measuring on a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being what you want it to be. 0 being like you're nowhere close to what you want to be. So for example, the brother wanted to be, in finances, a billionaire. How close is he to that? And he's like, you know what, I'm in debt. I'm at minus 300 right now. Okay? So he'd give himself like a 0 or a 1. Because his goal is to be like a billionaire. Someone else will be like, it's not to be a billionaire. My goal is to make a $60,000 job working for the government. Do you make a $60,000 job working for the government? Yeah. Okay, give yourself a 10 out of 10. That's your goal, and you've achieved it. Right? 10 out of 10 on that. And so on. What about something like worship? A person, maybe what's their goal for worship? They would say, if I pray 5 times a day, do my daily prayers, then that's a 10 out of 10 for me. I did my 5 daily prayers. And so, you know what? Give yourself 10 out of 10. And someone else will come, like when it comes to health, what takes a 10 out of 10? If I'm this weight, or if I'm this BMI, or whatever it is, if I've achieved that, then I'm a 10 out of 10. Maybe they haven't totally achieved it. They got another 10 pounds left to go, but they're doing very well, 8 out of 10, and so on. So let's go through this life wheel together. And what you want to do is when you do see the number, okay? So let's start off. You can color in there, or you can put in your own papers, make your own circle. So if, for example, we'll start off with health, so you get kind of like the idea. 10 being your ideal, and 0 being like nowhere close to it. What is your goal for your health? In general, you might change that later, but like for now, I want you to understand how to use this life wheel. What's your goal for health? So you kind of like get an idea of what your goal is. How close are you to that goal on a scale of 0 to 10? And so if, for example, you want to weigh what you weighed in high school and you're like 50 pounds over that, you might not, and you're kind of like getting to the point where you need to like really start getting serious about losing weight. So you might put yourself at a 1, for example. And then you would color like 10% of this slice. 10%, so just color it in. Or maybe you're doing pretty good and you're like at a 5. So you make a cut in the middle and like 50% and then start coloring that in. Whatever it is for you. Okay? For now, I think you can just make the line at the appropriate area. We can color it in after. Okay, so next one, career or business. Where are you 0 to 10 with your career? It's been my experience that a lot of people actually focus on their careers. So they're going to university, they're getting their degrees, and there's a lot of focus on it. So you might be doing very good in this area. It's not necessarily maybe something that you like or whatever it is, but you're really good in your career. So you might be like a PhD, but you hate your life, but that's another slice of your life. But you're a PhD at least, 10 out of 10, for example. Or your business. You have goals for your business. Is your business where it wants to be, or do you have more improvements? So let's suppose you give yourself like a 6. Okay? And we said we'll color in afterwards, but anyhow. Okay, your finances. Where do you want to be financially? 0 to 10. Where do you think you are? Are you where you want to be financially? You know, like there's so much excess money that you don't know what to do with it? Or is it that, you know what, you still have ambitions that you need to fulfill? Where would you be financially? Again, maybe it's a 2, you got really big financial issues, or maybe it's like you're doing, like finances isn't even a problem. Let's take it from the perspective that finances is no problem. I've solved that. Move on to other things. So 10 out of 10. Again, finances either up or down. Okay, so finances, let's say 10 out of 10. Then you got emotions. Because emotion, and you can put different things into these categories. These are the ones that are like important that a person should need to be. So a person might have these things, but emotionally they're depressed. They have a job, they have a lot of money, they're married, but they're just an emotional wreck. And they're always like frowning and snapping at people, for example. Which kind of might relate to health as well, but there's other issues. So health, let's suppose this person is just in so much depression and sadness, and so emotionally they're not that. Or they snap at people and they get angry. So let's put like a 2, for example. Your social life. Your social life. Again, you could put different things here. Maybe contribution. How much do you contribute? Your social life. Social life is critical for like a person being in balance. You want to, meet other human beings. You want to have friends. And, love them and have, they love you and so on and so forth. People to chill with. Okay, so your social life, if you're in IT, for example, you have no social life. Why is that? Why is it that IT people have no social life? Is they're sitting behind a computer? I know Hasnain's got a social life, alhamdulillah. But they're like sitting behind the computer, and a lot of people, I think Ottawa is like, per capita, something like that, the most behind the computer, most internet access in North America, something like that. Anyways. So social life for a lot of people, subhanAllah, when I was growing up, my parents would like visit these people and they would visit that people, and there was like a cycle going around of who would invite each other, right? And eating at restaurants was unheard of because our parents knew how to cook. And it wasn't a big deal cooking for a lot of people. Then came like our generation. And now eating out becomes the norm. I think typically, the average person eats out at least once a day, okay? So eats out at least once a day, so cooking is not their skill anymore. They're too busy for that. They wish they could delegate it. They delegate it to McDonald's. That's what they delegate it to. So inviting people is so stressful, especially if you look back at the sister's list, where on that does she have time to invite people, right? And, just like I said, there's no time. And so whenever there's an opportunity to have a social life, let's go to their house. The problem is that they got the same schedule that you got. So it's just running around in circles. Everybody blocks each other off, and then they'll say, let's get together at a restaurant. And so the social life goes down, and usually getting together at a restaurant, there's too much work involved in that. So social life is like 0, but let's put a 1. Then comes children and family. If in the busy lifestyle with all the distractions and and the phones and the emails and all of that stuff and delusions, as we've been talking about the different time targets, when it comes to children, how many people have children here? Okay, so if we're talking about family, not everybody here has children, but if we're talking about family, such as extended family, such as your parents or your uncles and aunts and cousins and stuff like that, usually you speak to them once a year, and probably not even that. Right? People are overseas, you've traveled, you have family members that have lived and died, and you know what? That time you met them 3 years ago when you went back to the home country, that was the last time you'll see them. Okay? So family life, for a lot of people, is not that strong. For other people, by the way, it could be very strong. Some people are like, they go to their parents' house like every night so that they can make food for them or something like that, right? So maybe let's put it in the middle somewhere. And typically it won't be that strong, but children and family. Now, wife and husband. How many people married? Married? Okay, not too many people married. So if you're not married and you're trying to get married, I usually put this both ways. Some people are like, they're trying to get married and there's like 10 people in line trying to marry them. And they're like, when I feel like it. Right? And so this person basically maybe like a 9 out of 10 even though they're not even married. And then other people, or they might be trying to get married and stuff like that. Maybe years have gone by and they're still not married. You know how it goes. So typically in this category, the numbers are low. Whether you are married or you aren't married. If you're not married, you're depressed because you're not married. If you are married, you're depressed because you hate your husband or wife. If you know, or you don't have children. If you have children, you're sad and depressed because you're not teaching your child enough. If or you feel like, oh, you know, they're being disrespectful as they get a little older. And then when they do get married, then you're sad and depressed because they have left the house. Or you're sad and depressed because of your son-in-law or your daughter-in-law. Okay? That's a life of sadness and depression. It could be other than that. You could enjoy every time of your life. Meaning that you're not married, enjoy the freedom. You're married, enjoy marriage. You have a child, enjoy them as a baby, enjoy them as a toddler, enjoy them as they go to school, enjoy them when they get married. And then once they get married and move out of the house, enjoy that, you know, that time back with your husband or with your wife. So it can go both ways. But typically it doesn't go that way that I just mentioned. It goes the first one. Okay, so let's put like a 2 for husband and wife. Alright, then on a scale of 0 to 10, how's your worship? When it comes to worship, what can I say? I put mine preoccupied in salah. What that means is that you come into prayer and you leave prayer, and we've been talking about automation. You have automated your prayer. Meaning that you start, you know, set it and forget it kind of thing. Allah, and you've forgotten. You don't remember what you said. There's no you don't even. I did this once. I said, you know what? I'm not going to come out of ruku. I'm not going to come out of sujood until I consciously remember back to the iceberg, the top part, until I say it from the top, not from some subconscious level. I said, Subhana Rabbil. I say it from the top, and I really mean it. And when I first did this, I couldn't get out of ruku because my mind just wouldn't concentrate on what I'm saying. What does Subhana Rabbil A'la mean? Right? And even I'm telling you this, you rarely do it consciously. You just be like, and they just go. You don't even know what you said. Sami Allahu liman hamidah. Whoever pays attention to what they're saying when they say Sami Allahu liman hamidah. They go into session. And you remember I told you get brilliant ideas when, you know, you're in a state of relaxation. People get their ideas in salah. Because their mind is just like, let go. And then they're like, oh, I need to do groceries after salah. Here's something. I'll tell you this instance. All right. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was in salah. And he was praying. And imagine, I want to give you just so you understand this. Imagine if someone was praying, like a Jummah prayer. The Imam goes, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, assalamu alaikum. And then people just jump up. And they're like at the door. Why did they do that? Why did they do it? What's that? Okay, obviously, right? They were preoccupied in prayer because the Imam was talking a little bit longer. He thought that they cared about what he was saying, but they're like, no, we got to get back to work. We're going to be late, okay? So they're preoccupied with that. So they jumped out. So the Prophet ﷺ was praying, and he said, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And then he jumped out of prayer and left the masjid right away. And he scared the companions. He left so quickly. So now, the Prophet ﷺ came back afterwards, and he came back and he saw their faces, and he saw the shock on their faces at the hastiness of the Prophet ﷺ just leaving his prayer. And I'm telling you that if hastiness like that comes up, it's something that took place before prayer, during prayer, because the person doesn't have time to say Assalamu alaikum and then think of something and then go and do it. Meaning that what made them jump up was something that they were thinking of in prayer. Right? So the Prophet ﷺ was thinking about something. There was something in prayer that he was thinking of. He saw the shock on their faces, and then he was like surprised at this himself, and he reassured them, and he said that, it's don't worry. He told them what was preoccupying him. Does anybody know what was preoccupying him? Yes? Okay, somebody else? Yes? Okay, the Prophet ﷺ had made intention to give some money charity, and it was not distributed. So in the prayer, he was preoccupied with this money that wasn't distributed. He was preoccupied with charity that needed to go out. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And I would always tell people who preoccupies their prayer with thoughts like that. Needy children that need money, or people that need help. And in prayer, you jump out of prayer because this needs to get done. Was it urgent? No. But it's important. And that's where fulfillment comes from. Okay? So, when it comes to worship, how is your worship? On a scale of 0 to 10. When we're talking about it right now, because I told you that story, maybe it's zoomed up in number on a scale of 0 to 10, just being reminded. But typically people are zombied out when it comes to their worship. So let's say that on a scale of 0 to 10, maybe they might be praying their prayers late, waking up for Fajr in the last minutes, sun's up, is it not up? They pray, they knock out 2 rakahs, and, as they're like, Assalamu alaikum, Assalamu alaikum, they slide back into bed, right? They roll back into their bed and so on. Life's like that, eh? So, let's suppose it's at like the person's really working hard and it's a 3. Alright, have you done it? Have you filled in your numbers? Everybody's filled in the numbers? Okay, great. What you see now is a diagram. You see a diagram. And I'll explain different diagrams. Some of you might have something that looks kind of like a Pac-Man. Does anybody have a Pac-Man? Meaning when you colored it in. What is this one? Is that a Pac-Man? No. Does anybody have a Pac-Man? That would be a circle that's filled in. There's some large numbers around the side, and then 1 or 2 places. They might be on opposite sides. If you put them together, it would look like there's just a cut somewhere. Anybody got something like that? You got a cut? Where's your cut? Which one? Okay. And yes, sister? You don't want to share? Okay. So, but your worship is like number 1, right? Alhamdulillah. It's okay. It's okay. Whatever it is for you. Okay, so you got the Pac-Man. Then you've got another diagram that comes up, and that is, as I call it, the inverse Pac-Man. This is an inverse Pac-Man here, where the numbers are low all around, and then in one area the person is extremely strong. Like, they've got 4 limbs, and their arm is just, like, super muscular, right? Just one arm. Everything else is, like, frail and is going to break off. One arm is super strong. Okay? It's the inverse Pac-Man. How many people got inverse Pac-Man? You got 1 or 2 that are, like, intense, right? And you might have been copying what I was saying here. Every time I said something, like, you're right. you put in lower numbers. Okay? Then you've got a third diagram, which is the donut. This is someone who put in low numbers. If you took this one out, it would become a donut, right? Which is low numbers all the way around. Anybody got a donut? Donuts? Donut people? Okay, congratulations. Who had the inverse Pac-Man? Inverse? What was the one that you were focused on? Okay, so social life, health, and somebody else? Yes? Social life and emotion. Somebody else? Yes? Social life and what? And family. Okay? So like an inverse Pac-Man, yeah. And then the donut. We said, did anybody have like a donut? Low on all the way around? Alright, cool. There's another one, which is what I call the biohazard. Which looks kind of like this. Because when I do coaching with people, I have them fill this out before I even choose to coach them. I'm the one who's choosing. Depending on what shape they're thinking, they don't realize how much I know about these shapes. This determines for me how I'm going to be dealing with the person. I have no problem with the Pac-Man. I love the Pac-Man the most. I kind of don't have too much problem with this. If the person's really committed, I don't have a problem with the reverse Pac-Man. The biohazard, no problem. This is the problem here. Is the donut. I will tell you why. Actually, you know what? Probably in our next session, I'll tell you the thing. So if you have some questions, I'll take some questions for like 5 minutes. Yes? Okay, so the question is, does the donut apply to if it's small donut or large donut? You got like a large centered donut? What are the numbers? Like 6, 7 kind of thing? Okay, so if it was, I would say yes, it does still apply. The donut is kind of like it's even around. It's kind of nice because it's got like a balance there, but there's some serious issues there. I'm gonna explain afterwards. What I said about strong on this inverse Pac-Man is when a person is very strong on one area. I'm gonna explain all of them and how the person's life goes. But this is when someone, for example, I gave the example of finances, but a lot of the examples we had here, a lot of people were strong in their social life. They're very confident. They're very good with their friends and so on and so forth in their social life. So that's where they're strong. Okay, so like the sister saying, well, what if you want to start setting up some policies in your life, and someone says to you, for example, who do you think you are telling me to give me, to respond in one sentence, stuff like that. I would say that if you shock the people, which is like you spent this weekend with me, and then you just come out of it with like crazy energy, and I'm gonna don't talk to me unless it's like this and that. You have to realize, I want to remind you back to the employee that I'd give him work, which I didn't even explain how to do it. I've understood as a manager that I can't hold somebody accountable for something I never gave them time to digest it. So they don't know about some 3-minute principle. Who am I to get mad at them? Right? So with the most kindest and most merciful way, I would just tell the person that this is how I've chosen to set up my life. I know you don't know, but I would like to share it with you with these cool principles that I learned so that inshallah ta'ala you can benefit as well. So they get it that these are your principles. So you're doing it with mercy. Here's like an emotional technique. In your mind, you might say to the person, don't consider them as like some sort of shaitan trying to take your time away. But think of them, in my mind, before I start communicating with someone, in my mind, I would say to myself, I love you, to that person, right? So in my mind, and then my body reflects that in how I speak. So I would say that, and then I start communicating. And it comes out much more merciful than, you're annoying me or I'm just trying to get rid of you and so on and so forth. Yeah. Okay, so let's explain this. The Pac-Man and the inverse Pac-Man. Why I like them? Because if this was, the air on your tire, how would your tire run? So you imagine if this was like an inverse Pac-Man, you would go very, very slowly, and then you would be extremely strong in one area. So if you're driving in a car, it would go like this. It would go boom, 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 like that. That's what would describe your life. The inverse Pac-Man, the Pac-Man would go like this. Everything's riding smoothly. Boom! It's kind of like they're just opposites, right? Or the other one probably like boom, 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 smooth. Boom, 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 smooth. Right? That's how it would work. Pac-Man would bring immense pain to the person. And this would bring, if this is immense pain in a certain area. So the Pac-Man is usually wife, husband. Person's great in their career. They're Superman in their career. They're Superman in their social life. When it comes to wife and husband, they suck to the maximum. Right? It brings them so much pain. If you try speeding up with that, so it's like, boom, speed that up. Boom, 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 right? If you try speeding up with a tire like that, your car will explode. I'm telling you, it'll explode. The tire will explode and you go flying off. And that's exactly what happens to people's lives. Exactly. They get so stressed out and there's so much pain coming. It's the same area, and then they go crazy. And hopefully, inshallah ta'ala, it's not something really whack, but then you hear stories of people taking guns and like going and shooting up people at their workplace. Right? That's like an extreme example of someone who had probably like a circle like this, that it was, they lost their mind. Or even I heard some other guy that, his boss was like obviously totally like this. He took a knife and he threw it at him at the job. And the knife, like, it hit one of the posts and it stuck into the wall. And he's like, he took his notebook, closed it, and it's like, I quit. I can't live in a place where the boss is throwing knives at me. Okay? This is the extreme. I'm taking you to the extreme. I'm telling you where you're driving to. That's what I'm telling you where you're driving to if you don't fix it. So the reason I said I like working with a person like that is this person is coming to me because they acknowledge there's pain in their life and they want to do something about it. What I like about the Pac-Man is they've already learned how to succeed in other areas of their life. I can take principles from other areas of their life and just apply it to this area. So if the person's good in career business, they have problems with their wife or husband, I could take those strategies and start, introducing things about love and things about, how do you try to turn your family life into like a business that works for you, that you want to spend time with, that you want to, achieve and things like that, right? So the person starts planning vacations for his family. You know what I'm saying? He starts implementing things from there into his husband-wife category, and then things can fill up, and then it becomes the beautiful circle. Okay, inverse Pac-Man. Kind of, sometimes there's so much pain going on in this person's life, this person has a tendency to focus on what they're good at. So let's suppose some sports. What sports are the brothers good at? They're good at, are you good at hockey? In general, it'll be basketball, right? In general, it's basketball. Hockey, we're Muslims, so we don't really know how to play hockey, though. Okay, so it's basketball. That's what it is. All the way Islamic school, they're like, basketball all the way. So if they're good at basketball, and I say, I come there, and they're like, it's break time, what do you guys want to play? What do you guys want to play? Basketball. Why? Because we're good at it, right? Let's play cricket. You like cricket? See, anybody who likes cricket, I know exactly where you came from. Right? How many people like cricket? Okay, so yeah, you have something to do with the Desi culture in some form. Even people in Britain like cricket because they're Desi influenced. Even the British people. Okay, so they like cricket. By the way, cricket is so abhorred in North America that EA Sports, just so you know, this is kind of like a footnote. EA Sports has a 2009 cricket. It is not sold in North America, because they cannot sell any of them. Nobody cares. But this is their number one game. It's actually more popular. They probably sell more of it, but they sell it overseas. They sell it in the UK and Europe and stuff. People care about cricket. So back to these guys that know how to play basketball. Let's play cricket. They would never play cricket because they're not good at it. So the problem with this inverse path, the person, every time you tell them, let's deal with your husband-wife situation, they're like, you know what, that brings too much pain. Let's just avoid it. I'm really good at social life and pretending like I'm happy, so let's go back to this social life thing. They keep wanting to play basketball when they absolutely must need to and learn how to play these other games and get into it. A lot of people will avoid worship too. That'll be their thing. But in this case, they're so weak in so many areas of their life that it's like pain is coming from all directions, and this person might have like a hopelessness type of attitude. So you really need to get commitment from a person. We can deal with this, but you need overhaul, right? There's a lot of work in many aspects. So it can be a very exciting ride for a person like this because there's so many areas of their life that they can get so much happiness from, but also can be very difficult to pull this person out of their habits and start to focus on what they're not good at. This one as well, the biohazard, is all right with me because this person is kind of like a mix between these two people. They're good in different areas of their life and they're bad. So they're getting, like knocked here, smooth here, knocked here, smooth here. So the ride is so like bump, 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 okay, bump, okay, bump, okay, like that. So now they see like, you know what, I want to get some balance. So then this person also, they would honor, respect, personal development, they care. The donut is the problem. And here's why it's a problem. The donut is the problem because this is the killing me softly person. You take a butter knife and you do a donut on them. Which is, it's not bad enough and it's not good enough. And this person doesn't want to change. So I'd have, for example, someone who makes $50,000 a year, maybe even 60, maybe even more than that. His dreams are much larger than that. Wants to make like $500 million. I told him, you do realize you're going to have to quit your $60,000 job to move towards this goal, right? He's like, well, I can't really do that. It's 60,000. But it's not your dream and you're not happy. But it's not a bad job. Exactly. And it's not a good job either. It's just like, Can you guys do that? Yeah. Go ahead, do it, do it. It's not bad, it's not good, it's like, yeah. How's your marriage? Yeah. How's your worship? Yeah. It's not too bad, not good. You know, I pray sometimes, but yeah. How's your business going? Can't complain. It's not too good, not bad. I'm surviving. I'm surviving on a desert island, and alhamdulillah, there's some berries. Alhamdulillah. Your finances, how's your finance? You know, paying the bills. Yeah, it's not too bad. I got a job. It's okay. When I came to Canada, moved to Canada, you actually see this on the page that talks about this seminar. When I came to Canada, I'd always ask people, whenever I get a chance, people would come to the house to do some work on the house or something. I'd ask them, so do you like your job? What would they always say? Yeah. They would say no. What can you do? It's a living. I heard that so consistently, that everybody was dissatisfied, but they're not dissatisfied enough. Right? And so try working with a person like this. They rip your guts out. If you're the life coach, this person is telling you that they care, but their actions are saying otherwise. This person needs a kick in the butt, like a serious kick. A very intense, painful kick. Something so painful. And it will come. Life will bring it to them. But it'll bring it to them when they're 50 years old. That's what I was saying, killing me softly with the butter knife. When all their friends have moved away and done things, they're still in a rut. They're still at the job. They're still doing, I don't know what it is. Let's suppose all their friends got higher degrees and moved on and got married, and this person is still doing like a security job, for example. Right? You know, back when they were in high school or just in university, it was okay, but they never moved out of it. Or they didn't continue or develop themselves the way other people had developed. Right? It was supposed to be like a job that was just, you know, a stepping stone to something else, but it wasn't bad enough, and it wasn't good enough, and so they stuck like that. And so if you had this situation, you had like a donut, what you need to realize is that you need to make some serious decisions. Basically, you need to get to the shores of Spain and burn your ships. And now you have no way of going back, which will cause pain. It will cause a ditch, and then you'll be like, I need to fall back on something. No, it's not there. Just like I'm not telling you to quit your job straight out, but maybe that's what you need to do. You don't like your job enough, and you're waiting to be fired and stuff like that, and you're like waiting it out, and they don't want to fire you. I would say just walk in one day, guess what? I'm quitting. I hate this job anyway, and I don't want to waste your money. I feel bad taking your money just for me checking my email. And then they're like, no, Hasnain, what are you doing? And then you quit. Now you go home, you tell your wife, guess what? I quit. What are you going to do now? And then, you know what? The ships have been burned. We got like enough money to last like another 2 months or something like that. We need to, you know, our dream plans that we had, we need to implement them now. Because come 2 months from now, we will be starving. And then you start living an awesome life. The first month and 2 months are difficult, but believe me, when you look back on it, it will be the most exciting months of your whole life. You'll keep telling people, you know, before I was successful, there was these 2 months that I went through that, you know, I didn't even have a buck to, you know, get a bottle of water or anything like that. And it'll be the happiest times of your life. And the lessons that you learn from that, like your whole life, when you're on your deathbed, you'll be telling your children, you know, this is what I did at my work. I broke it off, and you know, and I lived my life. I would assume that if you went to the end of your life, just, you know, imagine and pictured it, and you were telling and giving advice to your children, what would you say to them? My guess is you would say something to the effect of, live your dreams and don't make excuses. That's what I would assume you would say, right? You want them to not be deluded in how life just deludes them, and you're giving them this advice, and you might be telling them, don't do what I did. Or you might be telling them, do what I did. That decision depends on your decisions today, inshallah ta'ala. There's some points that I wanted to share with you about what we're talking about, the life, this life circle here, the life wheel. Salman radiallahu anhu, he had, there was a companion by the name of Abu Dhar radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And Salman radiallahu anhu came to his house once, and his Abu Dhar's wife opened the door, and she was dressed in a way, basically, it's like she was dressed in a way of someone who doesn't care. So, when Salman radiallahu anhu saw this, he asked her, what's wrong? And she said that your brother Abu Dhar, Abu Darda radiallahu ta'ala anhu, has no need for the dunya. When she said he has no need for the dunya, she's talking about like he doesn't care about, basically anything that deals with the dunya. He's just focused on, his worship. So if we were to look at Abu Darda radiallahu anhu's life wheel, it might be like worship at full, 10 out of 10. But then on other areas of his life, husband, wife, the way his wife was dressed, it would be like lower, near the bottom and so on. Other aspects of his life, maybe his health as well, could have been lower. But on the worship, it was, I don't want to go too far and just tell you, anyways, I won't say it. So Salman radiallahu anhu, he went and he sat with Abu Darda radiallahu ta'ala anhu. And when he sat with him, he brought food to Salman and he said, eat, because I'm not going to be eating, I'm fasting. And so Salman radiallahu anhu said, no, I'm not going to eat until you break your fast and you eat with me. And so he insisted and then he broke his fast. Then Salman radiallahu anhu spent the night there, and when he was spending the night, right as soon as he went to sleep, then Abu Darda radiallahu anhu got up and he wanted to go and pray. And he said, go back to sleep. And then, he was, sleeping for a little bit, thought Salman had slept, and then he tried to jump up and go and pray again, right? How many people do stuff like that anyway, right? We're like all, we're reverse Pac-Mans on this one, or just the worship area. So he's trying to pray, and Salman's telling him, go back to sleep. It was till it was like last portion of the night, and then he said, stand up and we'll pray together. In the morning, Salman radiallahu anhu, he said that verily that your body has a haqq over you. It has rights that you need to fulfill. Your wife has rights over you, and your Lord has rights over you. So give every owner of a right their right. The statement in Arabic, فَأَعْطِي كُلَّ ذِي حَقٍّ حَقَّهُ. And then, so Salman radiallahu anhu's statement reached the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam of what he had said, because it was such a wise statement. And the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "Sadaqa Salman," that Salman has told the truth. Now, that's just giving you a glimpse. Salman is telling him that you need to be balanced. I gave you this example of a Pac-Man and how it hammers, reverse Pac-Man hammering all around. What happens when you've got a balanced wheel? That is your wheel. It is Phil. Now what will your ride look like? I'm thinking of the smoothest California beach ride. You're going smooth. You can go as fast or as slow as you want. And it just reminds me, like, if there's a picture of you, underneath it says slow ride. It's like in patience and calm. You're in balance. There's no aspect of your life that's out of balance. Balance in Arabic is justice. Correct? It's like a synonym of balance is justice. A synonym of imbalance is injustice. The Arabic word for balance or justice is adl. And the Arabic word for injustice is dhulm. And so Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brings this up, that they didn't transgress against us, but rather they transgressed against their own selves. Meaning they went out of balance. I've said this in our Maghrib classes, but killer storms. When a killer storm comes down and destroys everything and everyone, what causes a killer storm? This is the meteorologist definition. They say when an imbalance in the atmosphere happens, that creates the killer storm. An imbalance, i.e. dhulm, when transgression happens in the atmosphere. Then the killer storm comes to be. Then, when does the storm stop? The meteorologist or whoever is saying this, some scientist guy, maybe they're not a meteorologist, they say that when the atmosphere regains balance, then everything stops. Right? So the storm comes to an end. Meaning that when justice is restored, when it gets back into balance. And so if your life is any like this, and the chances are, if you've never measured this, I have never met someone who had like a full balanced life. I've never met anybody like that, except one person. I kept asking them, what are you on this? They'll be like, very confident. On a scale of 0 to 10, what are you? Health? I'm a 9. go to the gym and exercise. How are you on your career? Business starts his own businesses and they're very successful. 9, 10. Finances, financially, I'm set. 10. Emotions, yeah, I don't have any problems. 10. Social life, I'm very social, always, playing sports with the brothers and stuff like that. Great. 10. How's your family? I take care of the family, visit them all the time. 9. How's your wife, husband? Great relationship. So, like, all the way around. Worship, alhamdulillah, he's, very committed brother and stuff. All the way around. I've never seen someone like this. And I thought, he's bluffing. There's got to be something wrong. And he's like, no. And I like, poked him and said, like, is it really balanced, stuff like that? And he really was balanced. I'm like, that's awesome. You don't need any coaching. Congratulations. Your life is set. Have fun. So he's balanced. What he might need help on is not necessarily life coaching. He might need help with, he might need specific mentorship. For example, learning skills on how to help other people. Maybe he's balanced, but he doesn't know how to help other people become balanced. And yet his parents might need help or something like that. And so maybe just tell him this and that. But in general, if you found that no, things were out of balance, then alhamdulillah, you're a human being who has things. And the exciting thing is this. You have goals to aim for. That's very exciting. If you didn't like the fact that there's some, I'll give you this example. Like one brother was telling me that his father became very wealthy. Very wealthy. He was in the U.S. somewhere. Became like a doctor. And now when you have like crazy amounts of money, let's suppose someone's got $5 million. Can they enjoy like a steak dinner? They got $5 million. They eat steak for every meal. And they can buy whatever they want. They're like, they look at the menu, just give me the most expensive thing. And they could care less. And then he would tell his son that when he was growing up back in the country, he's like, if we got an orange, it was like the happiest day. If they got an orange. And they would save it. They would take one slice of the orange, eat it, and then save the rest. And then take another slice. They loved and appreciated every slice of the orange. And yet when they had all this wealth, now they can't, like, what wealth buys, who cares? Because the person, actually this guy's got a problem. He needs to come to like an event like this too. He needs to be more thankful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and start. You'll find that the things that you really extract the most pleasure from and happiness are the smallest things. Like a smile, a look, an event, that the smallest things, and they usually have nothing to do with money. But inshallah ta'ala, we'll talk about that after. The other thing I want to talk about is, sometimes if you go to a circus, how many people have been to a circus? Circus. Okay. In a circus, there's this act where the person is spinning plates. The spinning plate guy. So he like puts up this big pole, spins it, puts it up. Another pole, spins it, puts it up. Another pole, spins it, and puts it up. Spins it and puts it up. If you keep jumping from project to project, what'll happen is that, and we're talking about here, some things you can spin them and who cares if they crash afterwards, delete those things. But you will find that in this circle, you can't spin this once. Like your wife is mad at you or something like that, and he's like, remember last year I bought you flowers? Remember you were happy last year? Right? I spun that plate last year. Are you still obviously you can't just do that. Spin a plate once and forget about it, right? So it's something that you constantly need to revisit. If you forget about it, so once you maintain your health, this is actually something about health. When a person, what's your goal for health? The person will say to reach, X amount of pounds. And I would say the person that, once you're going to lose that goal is the day after. Because once you achieve it, you celebrate, you go eat at Dairy Queen, you're like, I achieved my goal. And then you've lost your goal because your goal wasn't to maintain it. It's a spinning plate that you're going to have to like maintain your whole life. So in order for the diet to be successful, it's got to be your life. It can't be some fad diet that, you just deny yourself for 2 months or something like that, lose the weight. You're going to gain it back, obviously, because the person hasn't made lifestyle changes. And so on. So the spinning plates analogy, you realize that in your life, suppose this week you're going to be focusing on your finances and you're going to be focusing on your family. Then next week, your finances, the plate is spinning pretty good. Then you'd come back and focus on your health. I'm going to take time off of work and really take care of my health. And you know what? I'm going to start, going a little bit earlier to the masjid or start attending like a lecture series that, I haven't before. And then as you start doing that, then you realize as another week goes by, you're focusing on your wife and or husband, that's going good. Then 2 weeks later, your finances that you had spun a little bit is starting to slow down. you go back to it. So life is like every week you choose like 2 slices, 3 slices, and focus on those for the week and set some goals based on the different slices. Next week, choose some different slices. The week after, rotate it, choose some other slices, and just keep rotating like that. And inshallah ta'ala, you're always constantly working on these things and moving forward. One of the, as I said, automating it. I made in Discover You, I'm not concerned with just like selling products. I'm concerned with actually people implementing it. In fact, the whole idea of people paying to study was because I cared about people, not just, how many people I can get in the room. I could care less about that. What I care about is how many people benefit from the information. And you need commitment for that. So when a person pays for some information, then they pay more attention to it. And so I would recommend, and it's part of your success. You can't find somebody who's reached great success that's done it by themselves. That's impossible. They had people who helped them, people to, push them up. You have to have mentors, right? They don't necessarily have to be paid mentors, but you have to have people that you're working with, you're taking advice, in consultation. You just can't make the stuff up. Everything's already been done, and that's why I implemented this life coaching into Discover You, so that you have a coach whose job is to meet with you on a recurring, consistent basis. So it's like set it and forget it. You've signed up for the coaching, now you've got like 12 sessions. Whether that's personal trainer at the gym or life coaching sessions. Now, let's suppose it costs $300 a month. Make that your number one goal. And that's why I teach that Millionaire Who Went to Jannah, because people always use money as an excuse why they're not achieving. So let's deal with the money issue. Let me give you some coaching on that. That's goal number one. How can you make an extra $300 in a month to pay for this life coaching? And so the life coaching becomes free. Here's some tax tips. I can save you like about $3,000 on your taxes, just like snap, just like that. It'll pay for the whole event right there. If you only trusted and you implemented, you'd automatically just save that money right off the bat. And now it pays for everything. And now you can pay attention to what's being said after that. Now we can work on some other areas of your life, inshallah ta'ala. So the issue of life coaching, yes? So the question the brother's saying is like some things like you can't like 1 week just forget about your wife and tell her I'm working on my health. But here's the interesting thing. If you did say that to your wife, like I'm serious about my health this week, I'm going to take care of myself, you'd actually find support, by the way. If you just let everybody know that, listen, I'm going to have a heart attack soon, I need to take care of myself, they're like, dude, we hope you take care of yourself. We're all sick and tired of you treating us badly, irritable and, out of shape and tired and lazy, all of that stuff. Dude, go for a walk. Is there some pet that we can take care of for you as you go out? Like, they'll support it. Right? So just let everybody know. If you're in a business, a lot of people just freaked out. Even when they go on vacation, they're still checking their emails on the vacation, right? Just tell people, I'm on vacation. Put up an autoresponder. I'm on vacation. I'm out of the office. I love those emails. It's like, dude, just go. Things will be taken. The world's not going to come to an end. And if it did, so what?